Every few weeks, especially after major updates, I like to take a step back and look at where Battlefield 6 totally stands. Because at this point, after Season 1's rollout and the most recent patch, it's fair to say the game is still in a pretty complicated spot. There are meaningful improvements going on, and the developers deserve credit for the progress they've made. But even with those positives, Battlefield 6 still feels like it's walking a fine line, showing signs of progress, yet still weighed down by some long-standing issues and bugs that are dividing the community. The game is moving forward, but at a pretty slow pace, with game-breaking bugs like map exploits, Blackwell Field's aircraft spawns, and issues with bloom and recoil still very much affecting the experience for average players. So today we're breaking down exactly where things stand right now, what the most recent update actually changed, what's promised in the next wave of patches, and what players are still frustrated about, including the introduction of casual breakthrough, ongoing concerns over recoil, and the broader conversation around gunplay and balance. So let's dive in and take an honest look at the current state of Battlefield 6. But if you're new here and enjoy in-depth reviews, breakdowns, and discussions on all things Battlefield, make sure to drop a like and hit subscribe before we dive deeper into the state of Battlefield 6. Let's start with what's been fixed, because this latest update finally tackled one of the game's biggest pain points, the challenges. Just last week on November 5th, the developers rolled out a massive overhaul to challenges and more than 90 individual assignments, and it's one of the most impactful quality of life updates we've seen since release. Now, originally, an earlier update increased XP earned in official matches and reduced the XP needed for your first 20 attachments. That alone made progression noticeably smoother. But with a more recent change, most challenge requirements have now been cut dramatically. Things like the Assault 2 challenge, where you need to have squad mates deploy on your spawn beacon, has gone from 50 down to just 5. Support 2, revive teammates, dropped from 200 to just 60. And across weapon assignments, damage requirements were reduced by huge margins. For example, the Rapid Fire 1 Assault Rifle challenge went from needing 10,000 points of damage down to just 3,000. Now, in general, I think these are welcome changes, especially for casual players, but some have maybe been toned down a little bit too much, especially when you add in the addition of casual breakthrough that we'll talk about later. But moving on, mode and unit assignments have also been standardized. Most now only require 2 wins per tier, instead of lengthy grinds that used to take multiple sessions. Conquest 2, for instance, was reduced from 5 wins to 2, while its objective kill requirement dropped from 30 to 10 in a single round. Even the Expert and Master assignments, the ones that used to demand pretty unrealistic streaks, multi-kills, and headshot chains, have now been retuned to match what an average player might accomplish in a normal match if they're paying attention. Now, these most recent challenge updates went live server-side on November 5th. Any progress you already made towards these challenges was retroactively applied the moment you logged in. Though, from my experience, you have to join matches and sort of check them off before moving forward. But in general, this was a great and much needed update. It shows that the developers were listening to the fans and finally acted on one of the most consistent complaints since release. However, it took quite a while, and they sorta seemed to mislead the fans to when exactly this was going to happen, but we're finally here. Now, with that being said, there are still a bunch of lingering issues that continue to frustrate players, and in some cases, they're the same problems we've been talking about since the beta, but now with new, often strange explanations. The first big one is recoil and gunplay. A recent report from Games Radar highlighted the growing frustration with Battlefield 6's recoil system. Many players, myself included, feel that it's overly complicated and borderline over-engineered. Instead of providing predictable, skill-based control, it often feels inconsistent. Like something invisible is adjusting your aim mid-fight, and that's exactly what's happening according to lead game designer Florian, as he explained that the recoil is currently tied to input. The more you pull away in a certain direction, the more it fights back. It's the kind of system that breaks trust between the players and the devs. You seemingly line up your shot, land your hits, but somehow the gun fights back in a way that feels artificial. And when developers publicly suggest that these concerns might be a skill issue, that doesn't exactly help the conversation. Recoil should feel rewarding to master, not random or confusing. Right now, it's hard to tell where Battlefield 6 falls on that spectrum and why they've decided to once again over-engineer a core aspect of the gameplay. Now, the second major debate is the introduction of casual breakthrough. On paper, it sounds like a good idea. A more relaxed version of one of the game's flagship modes, meant to help players complete challenges or just enjoy the chaos without sweating every objective. But I and a lot of other players have a few big issues with it. Now, I'm not against bots in general. They're a great tool for filling low population servers and helping newer players ease into the game. But when official lobbies are heavily AI, that's not a solution, it's a band-aid. It hides deeper problems with matchmaking, progression, and balance instead of fixing them. Battlefield's core has always been about large-scale, player-driven warfare with unique experiences created by and for the players. If casual breakthrough becomes the new norm instead of a real fix, it risks pulling focus away from addressing the actual balance issues in the original breakthrough mode, like vehicle dominance, spawn camping, and map flow, and thus waters down PvP. And that's the part that concerns me the most, because it feels like the developers are trying to solve player frustration by creating a safe alternative rather than improving the core experience that caused that frustration in the first place. In general, if you're someone who's pressing the game to be more like Battlefield 3 and 4, I hate to tell you, but those games didn't have casual bot farms as official servers. They had a well-balanced and enjoyable gameplay loop. However, we did recently get updated clarification on how bot servers will be handled going forward. As mentioned in DICE's update on community servers and Portal Experiences post, bots have now officially returned to Conquest, Breakthrough, and Rush after being temporarily removed from verified experiences. So here's how they currently work in those verified modes. First, each mode now supports up to 12 bots total. If bot backfill is enabled, matches require 8 players to start, and there can be up to 6 bots on each team. But if bot backfill is disabled, matches need 20 players to start. Also, bots now grant reduced XP, while player XP remains at 100%, similar to the core multiplayer experience. However, there's an important catch. If bots are enabled, player stats don't record gains or losses such as hours played, KG ratio, or total revives. According to DICE, this is not currently working as intended and will be adjusted going forward. However, the good news for anybody who's looking to farm bots is that challenges still count while playing in bot-filled lobbies, which at least helps with that progression. Now, I feel that this is a decent compromise overall as it keeps matchmaking healthier and the lobbies full, but still limits how much players can exploit bots for personal stats or farming. That said, I still think it speaks to that much larger problem. While bots are a helpful tool to keep the servers populated, the core multiplayer that has millions of players shouldn't be in a position where players prefer bot lobbies in the first place. It's an indictment of how broken and unbalanced Breakthrough currently is, and how grindy and frustrating some of the challenges have become. Right now, the challenge system practically tells you how to play the game, forcing you to focus on specific actions rather than letting you play the way you want and progress via high-scoring matches. It takes away from what Battlefield has always been about, player choice and creativity. Until those underlying systems are fixed, bots will keep feeling like a temporary patch instead of a genuine feature. But moving on, credit where it's due, at least the developers aren't ignoring all the issues. They've acknowledged that weapon dispersion, visibility, aim assist, and the general progression balance are all being actively reviewed. Server stability and matchmaking improvements are already being rolled out incrementally through November, and there's confirmation that hit registration and netcode fixes are being tested internally. These are the kinds of foundational updates that can completely change the feel of a game if done right. Battlefield's best moments have always come when the fundamentals feel reliable and tight, and if this next wave of patches delivers that, the rest of the game can finally start to shine. And the key will be consistency. Players are a lot more forgiving when they see consistent communication and progress. If each patch addresses tangible issues instead of pushing more unbalanced content, Battlefield 6 has a shot of stopping its fall from grace. And speaking of updates, it looks like DICE is gearing up for another patch next week, during the week of November 10th, which is rumored to address several of the outstanding issues, including the IFE missile inconsistency, stat tracking in bot servers, and other back-end stability fixes. If that patch delivers, it could smooth out a lot of the rough edges players have been reporting since the last update and bring the game another step closer to being where it should be after all this development time and money. But looking ahead on content, Season 1 still has 2 major content drops left, and they could make or break the game's momentum heading into this holiday season. The first is California Resistance, launching November 18th. This update brings a brand new map called Eastwood, a sprawling urban battlefield that blends urban zones with open terrain. It's designed to support both infantry and vehicle combat, and it hopefully is a nice contrast to Blackwell Fields. Alongside the map, the new mode debuting in this update is Sabotage, an 8v8 attack and defense scenario focused on objective control and tight team coordination. Smaller scale modes like this are a good test for Battlefield's gunplay and class balance, so it'll be interesting to see how it performs with all the other patches to come. The update will also include the return of battle pickups, limited time use, high-powered weapons that can turn the tide of a fight if used correctly like we saw in Battlefield 1, as well as new guns including the DB12 shotgun and the M327 sidearm. Then in December we'll see Winter Offensive. That update adds a winter rework of the Empire State map, complete with frozen choke points and a new ice lock environmental mechanic that changes how vehicles and infantry navigate terrain. It's also set to include a new melee weapon with the ice climbing pickaxe, plus limited time cosmetics and challenges tied to the event. Both of these updates are free for all players, which is nice to see. No paywalls, just content that keeps the fanbase together, alongside more optional cosmetic purchases, but you won't see me buying any of those anytime soon until they give us something a little more worth my time. If these upcoming updates land smoothly, they'll do more than just add new things to do. They'll show that Battlefield 6 can maintain a reliable live service schedule while still fixing its underlying issues. And that's exactly what the game needs right now, as it seems the game has gotten out over its skis delivering content while continuing to promise changes that are taking their sweet time to roll out. But overall right now, Battlefield 6 feels like a game standing at a crossroads. The most recent patch finally delivered on the long-promised fixes to challenges, XP balance, and progression, and that's a huge step forward. Season 1's remaining content looks promising, with new maps, new modes, and new ways to play that could help the game find its rhythm. But the real test will be whether DICE can stay focused on the foundation, the gunplay, the stability, the sense of control and quality that makes Battlefield Battlefield. Of course, the content drops are exciting, but the core gameplay needs to be just as strong to keep players coming back. The good news is, for the first time in a while, it feels like the developers are starting to listen and finally act. Communication has improved, updates appear to be coming, and the latest patch finally matched what the community's been asking for. If DICE can keep that energy going and continue to address these big issues like recoil and bloom head-on without relying on bot levies or band-aid solutions, Battlefield 6 could be on the verge of some massive improvements. But guys, drop your thoughts below and let me know how you're feeling about Battlefield 6 after this latest patch. Are these fixes enough to pull you back in, or are you still waiting for that one big update to make it feel even better? But guys, stay tuned and subscribe for everything Battlefield, and as always, thank you guys for watching.